Welcome to this video where we're going to be speaking about the Spartans and also the Numidians. But if so, why are we looking at a picture of a map of Troy? So let me explain. When we've spoken about Troy in the past, we have said that there are scholars who are not happy with this founding of Troy here in this setting in the modern day country of Turkey, and they say that we should be looking towards the Atlantic for ancient Troy and this history. So you could say they're known as like the Atlantic researchers. And then when I came across their research, I thought this could actually help, with our picture and the work we're doing on this channel. And then I came across, this page, Atlantic Sparta, where you could say they're making discoveries and looking at interesting things for Spartans towards the Atlantic. And they make a case for Sparta being on the Iberian Peninsula, so the countries of Spain and Portugal. So you can see they've got on the map here Sparta, and I'm not going to try to explain all of this on this map, but we're just focusing on Sparta. And the connection they have here is to this place called Esparteros. Esparteros. So let's just explore this connection first. Now, it's very interesting because it's connected to fiber or cordage, and it's called Spartum. So we can see the similarity with the name Sparta. And if we look at the region where this is found, this map, we can see where this cordage is found. So we can see it on the Iberian Peninsula, but also coming into North Africa, and it's called Esparto, or we've got the translation here as Spartum. And if we go to the etymology of Sparta, it says here, the name is said to be from Greek Spartae, cord made from Spartos, a type of broom plant. So we see here that they're telling us that the actual meaning of this, the origin, is coming from this broom plant, which is used to make cordage. So isn't it interesting when we look for this broom plant, where is it? Where do you find this plant? We see the distribution here. And this is influencing a lot of places which have this this root in the name. So let's look at a few examples. So when I was looking at this page with the Atlantic Sparta, I saw them make mention of some of these places like Cape Spartel. So you can see there the element of Spartae, Cape Spartel. And this is a very obviously strategic location because it would be, by the Straits of Gibraltar. And there's another one, Carthago Spartaria. So there we see that, Sparta again. So what do you think about this? This is very interesting because making a case for looking for the Spartans towards the Atlantic. And maybe this name Sparta is actually connected to a broom plant used to make cordage. And then when you look at the distribution of this, does this make sense that we should be looking for Sparta, where you find this plant? So I think that is a fair thing to ask. Now I'm going to say that even though I'm looking at this Atlantic research and I'm, making mention of it on the channel, it doesn't mean that I agree with their conclusions or that, I'm agreeing with their identification of Sparta with the Iberian Peninsula. So I'm going to just give you my take on this, how I feel at the moment, because, things can change if you make new discoveries. But I don't connect Sparta with this region. I want to show you a connection that I make with this region of the Iberian Peninsula. So let's look at that. But we're also going to come back to this Sparta towards the end of the video. And we'll try to see, is there any smoke here? That saying, there's no smoke without fire. So they're looking for Spartans towards the Atlantic. We have a very interesting connection with this plant. But is there anything else? Is there any other, let's say, smoke to show that there could be, fire here to this claim? Now I want to go to our map that we started for the Sea Peoples. If you've been following our videos, we were talking about the tribes of the Sea Peoples, a mysterious sea varying confederation, and we put 4 tribes on the map, I would like to try add another one to our map, because we are still working with this with the Sea Peoples as well, and their connection to the Trojans, and also we saw the connection to the Berbers. Trying to understand that, we're going to look at one of these Sea Peoples called the Luca, also called the Lycians. Now, if we go to a map where they say we should be looking for Lycia, so we see it highlighted here, Lycia, on the modern day country of Turkey. So if you remember, we were saying that the theory that we get about the Sea Peoples is that we should be looking towards the Eastern Mediterranean. So if the Luca are one of the Sea Peoples, and here they're telling us this is Lycia, also known as the Luca, then you can see why they, making those claims that we should be looking to the Eastern Mediterranean. But is this really where the land of the Luca was? So let's try explore this. So we got Lycia, but it's according to the Hittites in their inscriptions, or let's say their records, it was known as the Luca. So you could say Lycia or the Luca lands. And I was looking at I was trying to explore the journeys of the Apostle Paul. So that was why I was using the Strong's Concordance for Lycia or Lucia. And they say perhaps it has the word origin from Lukos. So Lukos, like a name, could be giving us the name like Luke, Lucas. So that got me thinking, and I started to consider Lagos, Portugal. So Lagos, a famous city in southern Portugal. And then, you might be thinking, well, is that really a person's name, Lagos? So I thought it was interesting when I came across Lagos. So Lagos was a Macedonian courtier and the father of Ptolemy, the founder of the Ptolemaic dynasty. So this Macedonian empire with the Ptolemies and Egypt. So here we actually do have a person called Lagos, just to show that we have different variations of this name. So they're saying that Lycia could be coming from Lukos, and I was just considering Lagos for this connection for Lycia or Luca, and we see that we do have these variations being used as a name, very close here with Lagos. So, some of you might be wondering, what made you think about Lagos? Why Lagos for this connection for Lycia? So I'll just try explain if I go back to this map. So I was working with some of these kingdoms before, like Phrygia, Galatia, Cappadocia, and Cilicia. And if you're new to the channel, I'll try to show you a video that you can go to try understand this. So part 19, where was Phrygia? And I put here the timestamp so you can go straight to where I'm talking about. So 20 minutes, 50 seconds, because it is quite a long video. And that will explain a part of this theory. Not all of it, just focuses in on Phrygia and Galatia, but then you'll understand why I was thinking about the Iberian Peninsula. Were these kingdoms really on the Iberian Peninsula? So I was actually thinking about the fact we could be actually looking at southern Spain for Cilicia. So if we're still on southern Spain and we're coming towards Lycia, but we're imagining the Iberian Peninsula, that means we'd be coming towards Portugal. If we think about the map, let me show you on the map. So we're trying to imagine those kingdoms where we're looking, and we're coming to Cilicia, but we're still on the Iberian Peninsula, and now we need to be coming towards Lycia. And that's why when I saw Lagos, that's how I made the connection, because I was looking for Lycia, and then when I saw the etymology of Lukos, I just thought about Lagos. And then if we go back to the page on Lycia, we do have this potential connection from the mythology that it could be named after a person. The name Lycia was adopted subsequently in honor of Lycus. And another possible option here for Lukos, maybe with a different meaning, but the same maybe root. So we do have this potential for Lycia or the Luca being named after a person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to update this map and bring Luca with a question mark, because I don't think it's quite maybe as strong as the Sheridan and the Shekelesh for Sardinia and Sicily. But that's where I'm looking at the moment for Lycia. But now these Luca, they would be a sea people. So they're going to be exploring, and they could be taking this name to different regions. So you might find Luca, this word influencing other places in different regions. But, we're trying to look at a location that was actually, it's called Lycia or Luca. So we are looking for we could say a decent sized region carrying this name. And that was actually on the historical record. And it's going to have to obviously work with other parts of history, other kingdoms surrounding it. So we're looking for something that makes sense with other kingdoms. So if you do watch that video, you'll maybe get the see why I was making these connections. So that's just my feeling about this that I wanted to explain to you. So if we just go back, so we can just recap. So these Atlantic researchers looking for Spartans towards the Atlantic, towards the west, and they're making a case for Sparta being on the Iberian Peninsula. So very interesting things that they're finding, and I'm not knocking all of it. I'm just not sure about this being Sparta, because for me, I'm considering it being the lands of the Luca. So then we'd still be looking for Sparta, and I'm not going to be going very far away from where they're looking, because of this very interesting detail with the spartum, with this cordage, this broom plant. So I'm still considering this region, but just maybe not quite where they're looking. But let's keep going with the final part of the video, where we're going to speak about Numidia. Now, this Numidia is an ancient kingdom in northwest Africa, and we see the date. So it didn't last very long, 202 BC to 25 BC. And this is really, if we go to a map, this kingdom of Numidia is the first time this region kind of comes, let's say, onto the historical record. If we go to our bigger map. Remember how we were speaking about the history of this region being very mysterious, and it's kind of, left blank on that video that we watched. But this will be the first time when this starts to come on the record, where we have a kingdom. We do also have Carthage, which is a little bit older. That's a city-state here, quite a small city-state, which did become an empire, more connected to the Mediterranean, coming to these islands. But, just how I see it is that this would be the first kingdom, proper kingdom for North Africa. But the date, 202 BC, we want to know about earlier history. What was happening in, this region we're studying, 1000 BC, 1500 BC. But yeah, it's just interesting that this is the first time, this region really comes onto the historical record. And it's because of the Romans, because this history of the Numidians, we really only know about it because of, the Romans and the Greeks. Because I was reading about the destruction of Carthage, and the Roman destruction of Carthage. A lot of information and libraries was lost and destroyed, and we know that saying that the winners get to write the history. So the Romans would kind of take control of this region, not only the territory, but they also kind of take control of the past and the history. And maybe that's kind of why we might be, struggling to put this together. But let's keep going to see if we can find something looking into the mythology, because it's interesting that we have a king called Sophax. So a Berber king called Sophax, and we're going to focus on this detail because there's actually a Berber Greek mythology with this name. We see all these variations here for Sophax, Sophax. So it says, according to the myth, Sophax was the son of goddess Tingis from her second marriage to demigod Hercules. So we see the mentioning of Hercules again with North Africa and the Berbers, and the grandson of Zeus. So Sophax descended from Hercules and from Zeus. member of the Libyan royal family, and it says that Sophax replaced his mother's first husband Antaeus. Now it did mention Antaeus that he could have been a 90-foot giant if that account was true, and so yeah, he replaced Antaeus as a god of the country of the Berbers. He's said to be the founder of Tangier in memory to his mother. So we have a descendant of Hercules founding cities in North Africa. I'll just show you where Tangier, I can find a good map for it. Let me just go back on this one, then maybe we can see it. And I should show you where this Carthago Spartaria is. So yeah, this is on the the eastern part of the Iberian Peninsula, and then we can also see here Tingis. So Tingis or Tangier. So okay, is mythology, but there's a mythological founding for the city, and could it be connected with a descendant of Hercules called Sophax or Sophax? Okay, well, let's read this last part because this could be interesting. According to the Berber mythology, many of the Berber kings are descended of Sophax. So maybe we're looking at that example with on the historical record we have a Sophax, one of these Berber kings. He had a son called Diodorus, who reigned over many North African Berber tribes with the help of the Olympians. So the Olympians, so the famous gods of the Greek mythology like Zeus and Poseidon, helping Diodorus, who's the descendant of Sophax, rule over the North African Berbers. So it's interesting this because if we think about what we're talking about in this video and these videos on this playlist, we're saying this region is very mysterious, and the further back we go, it kind of goes blank in terms of the historical record. We watched that video about the history of the world every year, and this was left blank for large periods. And then as we come towards the time of Carthage and the Greeks and the Romans, we do get a bit of history for this region. But what about let's say like 1,000 years before that? What was going on here? And when we look at the mythology, then this region starts to, let's say, like come alive, because then we have Hercules coming through this region. We've got the Straits of Gibraltar or the Straits of Hercules, and we've got 90-foot giants like Antaeus. All kinds of it might sound strange, but then all of a sudden there's lots of things happening here. And the interesting thing about this is this could be connected to the Spartans. So we did say we want to say could we say that there's some smoke here at least? So a very interesting connection with this plant that it's called Esparto or Spartum. But is there anything else to connect this region with Sparta? And it could be with this mythology of Sophax or Siphax, because we mentioned this with the source Josephus Flavius. And we'll just read this part out here. This is quite important for this connection. It says, Plutarch speaks of a son of Hercules named Sophax and relates that Sparta was founded by Hercules and that the city was ruled by its descendants for several generations. So, very interesting that we have a connection of Hercules actually being the founder of Sparta, and that he had a descendant called Sophax. And also it says here, Herodotus reported that Leonidas was descended from Hercules. So Leonidas, a famous leader of the Spartans or general of the Spartans, claiming to be descended from Hercules. So Hercules being connected with the Spartans, but then we see how it's also speaking in the same sentence about Sophax or Siphax that we just read about, someone who was ruling over the Berbers. So we see how it's like speaking about the Spartans, and at the same time it's also connecting to Sophax or Siphax, who is being helped by the Olympians to rule over North Africa, and he has a son called Diodorus, and we'll mention that again in a second. We did speak about this connection when we looked at Josephus. You can pause this if you'd like to read it. We're not going to go through this again at the moment, but I just want to focus on this one part, because we need to be fair. We need to try to be fair when we're doing the study. And it does say here that, according to the ancient Greek historian Plutarch, many of the myths were created in order to give credits to the Numidian king Juba II, who considered himself a descendant of Diodorus and Hercules. So this scholar or historian saying that these myths may have been fabricated or created to give credit to this King Juba. So yeah, we've got to be fair and say, just to make mention of this. But I just thought I'd explore this a little bit, because is it actually a fair claim? Now, if we look at Juba II, when he was living, we see the period 48 BC to AD 23. And now we're going to look at how old is, well, let me show you what I'm thinking. Now, Josephus actually makes mention of this legend or this myth of Hercules and Diodorus, but he also quotes another scholar, Cleodemus the prophet. And if we look at Cleodemus the prophet, who also speaks about this, this myth and this legend, we see that he was lived around 200 BCE. So if you get my train of thought there, if Cleodemus Malchus was writing about this myth or this legend, and he lived before Juba was even born, Juba II, and we go back to this, what it says here, that Plutarch is saying that these myths were created to give credit to Juba II. Is that actually even fair? Because these myths and these legends were actually around before he was even born. So then how could they be created for him, to give credit to him, if they were already around? So yeah, I'm not sure about that. Let me know if that if you think that's a fair criticism of this point here. So what do you think about this video so far? It's very interesting. Obviously, it might be a surprise to people that just come across this and thinking about Spartans towards the Atlantic. But I think it's very, very interesting with this connection with Spartan and this cordage. And this could be, where this word Sparta is coming from. So should we be looking for the Spartans to the Atlantic, towards the Atlantic? And now we do have a connection with the mythology of descendants of Hercules ruling over the Berbers, and we have this connection to Sophax ruling over the Berbers with the help of the Olympians. But the interesting thing is that the son Diodorus, because this name Diodorus is connected with the Dorians and the Spartans, because Dorus, is a name that's connected with the Dorians. So we can see how this is being connected to the Spartans. When scholars look at this, they connecting this with the Spartans. And is it connected with this history of North Africa and the Berbers? So yeah, very, very intriguing, I must say. But also, I wanted to make that point that just because the research that they do is very interesting, and I think it could be helpful, but we also have to be careful, because we have to try to see why are they making these connections that they are. And I'll use it where I can, but I also will try say, okay, I'm not sure about this, and maybe give an explanation why. So I'm looking for Lycia and the Luca here, and I'm not going to try to put Sparta on the map just yet. But still very interesting that we do have to consider this for our playlist now. Another element to consider with the Berbers in North Africa is the Spartans. For the next video, what I'd like to do is actually focus in on Hercules, because we keep getting mentions of Hercules throughout this playlist, and maybe it would be the right time to actually focus in on Hercules and who was Hercules, try to understand Hercules a bit more, because it does seem to be influencing this history a lot, if there's any truth to these these myths and these legends. So if we're able to do that video, I look forward to seeing you in that one. And yeah, thank you for watching this video.